Crazy week in the sports world, and for some perspective, is former Atlanta Hawks media relations advisor. He is Arthur Triche. Triche, we got a lot to get to in a little bit of time, so I'm gonna start with the low hanging fruit. Two big stories in the association. First off, LeBron locks it down and goes to Philly. Is Philly now the team to beat in the East?
No, they certainly are numbers one, two, or three, depending on someone's poll. But the Knicks are still the defending champs, and until someone knocks them off, the loss of Mitchell Robinson is going to hurt them a little bit. But I still think they've got the mettle to win it again, and they certainly will be tested by Philadelphia. And I was looking at someone's already top 12 teams in the East this morning, and I was surprised at how far some teams had dropped. Detroit being one. I think they had Detroit down to 8. They even had Atlanta, who I thought had made some interesting moves this offseason, ranked at 11 right now. And so I guess we'll have to wait and see. But they had New York and Philadelphia 1 and 2 in the East. So right now it'll be interesting to see how things go with between those two teams, because I think, as someone said earlier this week, the NBA would be wise to open the season with those two teams playing against each other on the season opener. Don't be
Point,
waiting
point.
until Christmas. Don't be waiting until Christmas Day.
Well,
Play
you
it
got
right
it.
off the
Well,
bat.
that's the beauty of the NBA. You can do both. You can have
That's
them
right.
opening night and then have them on Christmas evening, and everybody's happy,
Now
depending on what they got under the tree.
the only problem with opening night is ring night is always an aggravation. Look, the Hawks, when I was there, we might have been ring night participants. We weren't the champs, but we were ring night participants about 3 different times, twice against Chicago. And we snuck up and beat the Bulls on those occasions, if I remember correctly. And it's because of the whole pomp and circumstance of it all. And the team is doling out the rings, they're dropping the banner, the crowd is into it, and the visiting team is stewing in the back in the locker room until they have to go back out and warm up again and get going. And so you're able to sneak a early W to start the season off on ring night. And it
Well,
happens in the WNBA. The Aces got beat by close to 40 points, if I'm not mistaken, by Phoenix in the opener. And that was Phoenix's best game of the season up until recently. So you might want to watch how you do your emotions on ring night moving forward, because you end up messing up the whole scheme of things. And so it ends up being a loss, and you end up getting mad with the world after one game.
all right, big picture. I think when it came to game time last weekend, the ladies at the All-Star game put on a really good show
Yes, they
after we
did.
got all through the malaise of the three-point shooting contest and what have you. But big picture, how good was that weekend on a scale of 5 balls, with 1 ball being an absolute failure and 5 balls being nirvana? Um, where did they lie?
I give it a 4.5 because, if anything, I think the Friday night event needs to have one more specialty piece added to it, because it didn't seem like I think they had the 3-point shootout and the skills challenge. You need to do one more thing, and I don't know what that might be at this point. Give me some time. I'll certainly think of something for us to talk about in the future.
Well, I'll
But
fix it for you right now. I'll
huh.
say lower the rim and have a girls dunking contest. Why not?
The,
Take it
the young
down to
lady,
9 feet, 8.5, and let's
hey,
get after it.
you don't have to lower it now. The young lady from Seattle
She
dunked in the
did.
game, and so it would, and we don't want anybody to get hurt.
No.
But it was. I was very happy for AZ Fudd, because not only was she scorching the nets during the 3-point shootout, her appearance at the end when people or teammates and friends were pouring water on her, and she had just gotten her hair done and everything like that. And she's like, "Oh, my hair!" And just, you don't hear the guys saying anything
No,
like
you
that.
don't.
And so it was a great deal of laughter after that event.
Of course, most of the guys are either bald or they have their hair
Right.
so tight the water walls right out. You know what I'm saying? I want let's get a little serious about the NBA for a second, because it looks like they're opting out of the Middle East Abu Dhabi games, which and I want to get your perspective on it. How important were those games to the overall growth and development of the sport? Because we all know that there is an NBA Africa now.
Yeah.
And secondarily, man, I mean, this whole politics entering the sports world right now, it's like, is this a setback, for the league's global brand?
It is from the standpoint that they had to cancel, and it was the wise move to make because, given the climate of everything right now, and given the time frame in which logistically you're trying to pull these games off, you're trying to get hotels booked, you're trying to get planes accommodated for the teams and their fans and what have you. With the unpredictability of the Middle East right now, there's nothing wrong with putting a pause on these games for at least a year, if not a year or two, because Donald Trump said he never wanted to deal with forever wars, and we've been in this mess for the last 4 or 5 months with no end in sight. So the last thing in the world we would need, as I got your topics today, and I thought about it a minute, the one thing that always stuck with me in my fandom of the Olympics was the night of the Munich disaster
Yes.
that
Hmm.
involved the Israeli delegation being assassinated by a bunch of Arabs that night in a surprise attack that no one saw coming, and so it ended up it tarnished the games. And for those of us who were around at that time and watched live as Jim McKay was delivering this news, it really that was the first time that sports and politics crossed paths. And the last thing we need is for some kind of damage done to the NBA brand or to Americans or other countries in that region because of the reluctance or the refusal to postpone the event for a year or two. Because, hey man, you can't. Evil knows no end. You don't
No,
know
it doesn't.
when
It
someone
doesn't.
chooses to want to make an example of someone just because. And with, I mean, thankfully we didn't have any incidents going on during the World Cup, given the fact that they were at three different states or countries involved with that event. And we've got the Olympics in 2028, and we can only hope that things have calmed down considerably then. But I think the NBA, and I know the NFL is going to have to think about that too, because of the
The flag
NFL
football.
Europe
Yeah.
games that they have.
Hmm.
Because you just don't know. You certainly hope that there's no problems that precipitate any kind of deaths of any sort or injuries of any sort. But man, you and I may
Yeah.
think rationally. These people in some of these other countries, thinking with their brains sometimes never enters the picture.
No, no, no. Especially with the heinous disrespect that they've been almost fueled by
Hmm.
our commander in thief. That's Arthur Triche, boys and girls. He is former media relations executive for the Atlanta Hawks. As we continue, speaking of, and you've done this before, great segue to my next question. UEFA is now threatening to boycott the World Cup. It would appear in the never-ending world of sports corruption, FIFA continues to go to new heights. I mean, this one is just absolutely crazy when Infantino is talking about selling off pieces of the World Cup for um, millions of dollars in private donations. What do we make of the world's biggest event turning into just like a chip to be auctioned off?
How much longer are they going to put up with him? I mean, seriously, it FIFA. I started watching or attempted to watch the Netflix documentary on FIFA. I think it was called FIFA Unchecked, or that ran maybe a year or two ago. It was a four-part documentary on FIFA and some of the drama they had under the previous guy,
Right.
who they ended
Sepp
up
Blatter.
booting out.
Right.
Yeah, and the troubles with some of the African nation taking bribes and this, that, and the other, and Blatter also getting involved in the mix. It was just open hand. Bring me whatever tokens of appreciation, dollars, and whatever you can to fill my pockets, and we'll move on from there. And you can maybe have whatever you want. It's it's a shame that sports can be tarnished by some of these people who certainly have no class at all or no scruples to uphold why sports was created to begin with, and it's some of these other people, they're trying to make a buck in the quickest way possible, and sport be damned as to the future of some of these products, because you're always supposed to. I would always tell players this when they were playing for us with the Hawks, and Sharif Abdul-Rahim, who you know, and I had
Mm-hmm.
this conversation in Seattle one day, and I told them, I said, "You're as a player, your job is to leave the sport in a better situation it was when you entered. Because if you've done that, then you've accomplished a great deal. It's not always about you, and you're not selfishly thinking that it's always about you, because there's somebody coming along the way behind you, and you want to make sure that the sport continues to exist, and that it's in just as good a shape as it was when you entered. And so, if you can keep that in your mind, and I know the money is so wild and crazy nowadays that people certainly can be swayed in a heartbeat. I mean, gambling, we keep hearing all kinds of foolishness with gambling left and right, as recently as the WNBA All-Star game, and
Right.
related to the Atlanta Dream Dallas Wings game last night, in a supposed joking situation with Paige Beckers and Angel Reese that had to get refuted. First of all, why would you post that so-called side bet on your
On your
social
social
media
media
page?
account. Right.
Made no
That makes
sense.
none,
It's like
none.
we have talked so many times about the WNBA not doing the right thing in certain instances. And this, if you're looking at this and you think, oh, we need to post that, that's a great idea. Some interplay between the two players. What? That made no sense in the world. And now you've been getting ripped up and down, and you immediately take it down after you catch all the heat that it garnered, because it
Right.
never should have. It made it to see the light of day, and that's just common sense, man. It boggles my mind, some of the stuff that goes on
When you know
that.
something, it's no
Uh-huh.
longer about performance. We're in the land of clicks, likes,
Yep.
and unique impressions. And I'm kind of going to leave it there because I've been noticing how a lot of Caitlin Clark was sort of offered a protective branch from Congress last week,
Right.
but then I'm watching Sophie Cunningham put her finger in another player's face and doesn't really get chastised the way that she should, in my opinion. It's Professor GM with Arthur Triche as we talk about, the week's biggest stories. And this is the one that is flying under the radar screen. And I don't think anybody is really paying enough attention to it. You've got these mega jersey, what do you call it, logo sponsorship thing that have hit college football. Notre Dame has got like a $20 million deal with somebody. I know Big Ten schools have 15, 17 $1 million deals. Now, as I understand it, not every kid that's on the roster is an NIL kid, right?
Correct. Correct.
That being said, when you put a corporate logo on a kid's jersey, doesn't that make him an NIL athlete? Shouldn't he be
You
worthy
would
of
think.
compensation?
You would think it's the NASCAR effect. When NASCAR started putting sponsorships on their uniforms and what have you. It it happened years ago, but it was going to slowly creep into the contemporary sports, Major League Baseball, basketball, football, what have you. And it was only going to be a matter of time before we were confronted with this stuff. And so now the colleges are a lot more aggressive than the pro sports angle. But the amount of money that Ohio State brought in this past week for their uniform sales, it only makes you wonder what schools in the SEC and the ACC are going to try to do on their part. But it's some of that stuff should trickle down to the athletes.
Well, if I gotta wear the logo, and again, folks have been wearing logos for years.
Mhm.
The swoosh, the
Mhm.
three stripes, the UA. I get that, but this is next level right now
Right.
because most of those deals in the past have been tied to athletic apparel discounts, if not outfitting all those teams. We're talking about every sport
Yeah.
at those schools with like a logo for say SoFi on it.
Well, I think what you're going to find is, if I'm not mistaken, uh, other news this week pertains to Stanford University trying to create a union, if I'm not mistaken. And we've had hints of teams or schools trying to unionize. Northwestern tried this a few years back, and all of the players didn't, at least from a football angle, did not agree to get on board, and it kind of fell by the wayside. They're going to push these athletes to the point of where they're going to unionize. And it wouldn't surprise me if some of these agents who have professional athletes, and I forget the young man's name, Jeffrey, can't think of his last name, but he's been involved in sports lawyerdom for
Who, Kessler? Jeffrey Kessler?
Jeffrey Kessler. Jeffrey
Okay.
Kessler. And it wouldn't surprise me in the least that he gets involved in something like this down the road, because somebody's going to say enough is enough. Yeah, the kids are getting scholarships, they're getting NIL money, and a lot of that stuff is deserved. But when you start decorating the uniforms and the helmets and everything like that, and fans can buy these uniforms, and the money's going back to the university, but nothing's going back to the athlete, then you've got a tempest in a teapot, and something needs to be done about it. And we'll see just how much longer these athletes are going to be willing to accept this behavior, because there was always some hints dropped by Dale Brown back during his LSU days that we should protest the night of the Final Four and walk off the court and stuff like that. And everybody thought Dale was talking a bunch of nonsense. We may see this happen one of these days.
And here we is. And you just so eloquent. Tempest in a teapot. You know what we call it around the way? We call it pimping. That's a straight pimping. All right. It sounds a lot better coming from you. I just want to let you know.
It's we the PR angle,
but if it smells like crap, then it probably is crap. And that's where we are these days. With an arbitrary decision like this, I want to see who in Congress, before I let you go, is going to advocate for the kids in this one. We've heard the Tommy Tubervilles and all the ex-coaches talk about regulating what kids can do. Would they dare to stand up for them in this moment?
Yeah, they're always with the big talk. They want to regulate the kids so much, and it's like the coaches are the only ones making wise decisions. No, they're not.
No,
the coaches are trying to protect coaches. The Nick Sabans of the world, the Dabo Sweeneys, the Tommy Tubervilles, all these guys, they care about themselves. And they may talk a good game as it relates to the athletes, but we know they're full of crap. And the PR guy in me, and yeah, I'm available for anybody that wants to bring in some PR help with their universities or pro teams. But I'm going to keep it real with you. And we need to stop BSing around these kids and not acting like they're just there to be slaves to the game. No, they're not. They're bringing in money to these universities in handfuls. And we want to talk about increasing the college football playoff or the NCAA tournament and all this other kind of stuff. But yet, you don't, when it comes down to talking about paying these kids a little bit more or taking care of their families and this, that, and the other to travel to go to see them play. Oh, no, we can't do that. No, what do you mean?
That's against the law, the NCAA rules.
Problem with that.
The most useless entity in American sports right now is the NCAA.
NCAA, yes.
It's a shame that it's come to that you don't have any forward-thinking minds who are stewards of college sports. It's a criminal disgrace.
It's funny. As much as I would love to get back into business again, they have a communications job available right now that I looked at, and I've decided I can't mess with them because they're not going to want to hear any kind of truth from me. Not saying that I have all the answers, that everything that I say is correct, but I'm going to keep it real. That's no doubt about that. And so all the years I spent in sports, hey man, it means a lot to me, and we got to do better. It's that simple.
Yeah, we got to take the greed out of the game. But then again, you can't, spell game without the G and the E. So it is what it is. That's my guy, Arthur Triche, holding it down in the ATL. Yeah, it's all about the Benjamins, baby. It's all about the Benjamins. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with us, AT. Always a pleasure, my friend. We got more what you came here for on the backside. It's your boy, Professor G. It's OG Sports Rap on the network. Remember, download the mobile app. We all we got.